Namaste ji, namaste. Welcome to Courtroom by TLOI. Today, let us discuss about the NLSAT 3-year LB preparation and the myths surrounding this examination. We have been teaching for it since 22, the first edition of this exam, and by God's grace, we have done considerably well in the NLSAT 3-year LB space. So, based on that, I have some experiences, some data point to share with you. She is Prachi ma'am. She took the exam and attempted the exam to better understand it, to better teach for it. She is the lead faculty that teaches alongside with me at Courtroom by TLOI. So she has certain insights to share with you, and I have certain insights to share with you regarding the 3-year LB prep. Now let us start out with myths, basically.
So the first myth that we've come across is that this is specifically also on a lot of students that get enrolled. So from their past experiences, what they've told me that second attempters specifically who gave the first attempt by themselves. So that the myth that they underwent or they had in their mind was that NLSAT is simply an English examination. That if you are somehow good at speaking English specifically, that will automatically translate to your selection in the NLS. So that is the first myth that we will be busting. Yeah.
So the thing is, in my own experience, I've had many people with an exceptional command over their linguistics, their verbal spoken English, and they've been thinking in English for the majority of their, you can say, their school life, their college life. The majority of their academic life is the better term. And the thing is that they have not cleared the NLSAT. I have had someone score a rank 10 in part A. He had the most exceptional command in English that I have ever encountered. This was last year of 25 ka paper, and he could not clear it. I have had someone this year who was a part of the Harvard Debate Society as well, and he couldn't get through. I have had a student who has a MHCT rank 1, 100 percentile in an MHCT, in the MHCT exam for the 3-year LB. And NLE Odisha, what was his rank? 3?
3.
And I believe in the other entrances also in CUT PG, he had a 217 out of 300, which is an exceptional score. That's around a 70% mark. Not clear this exam.
We had a student who had rank 5 in part A of NLSAT this year.
And she could not clear part B. We've had rank 24, part 1 was an rank 24, Meher was a batch student, everyone that we declare. Up 26 mein we didn't offer the mock series basically outside of the batches, but before that we used to. So we always declare who was in the mock and who was in the batch. 24 rank 1 was in the batch. That was a second attempter. Rank 6 in 25 was a second attempter. N number of folks were second attempters. And this is a myth basically that that just because you have a flair of language, this is a competitive exam with competitive exam English. Now that varies, that differs from, let us say that if you have a South Delhi, South Bombay accent, that doesn't really help. So people really get humbled when they take this examination, and this happened again to someone in 26. He'll be appearing for the exam in 27 again.
This is something that I've been also told by a student, that I took the exam just to get a flavor and I was humbled because I thought that how tough will it be? I'm okay at English and somehow I'll be able to crack the examination. So the first thing is, look, the competition to hai. You are fighting for only few seats and the competition is going up every year, right? Everybody wants to be part of this elite institution. And so that's that. The second point is, even if you think you're good at English, you're good at spoken English, it's not enough, because this examination is not, you have to not only think in English, but you have to read, comprehend in English. You have to do that thinking and comprehension in a time-bound manner. That is for part A. For part B, you also have to do that. Then you have to translate it and write that English down.
And
So
then
that really matters.
First and foremost, solving a question is solving a critical reasoning question wherein the author's assumption comes into play. I'll give you a very good example. I believe the premise is the stated fact is that Iran-US war has ended. The conclusion is now the oil prices are going to come down. The question can be, what is the assumption that is leading the author from the premise to the conclusion? And the assumption is that the Iran war was the sole criterion for the oil prices. Now that requires a certain bit amount of training. This is what is basically called as critical reasoning. Now usually when you have a very decent enough background, let's say you're coming from the LSRs of the world, which is more often the case than not in this particular exam, and you think, well, you have it quote unquote. If this assumption training is not there, you're going to get hit hard in the exam. It's pretty much as simple as that. So this is something that is, and this is something that is very trainable. This is something that is very trainable. So you need to give it time, and then you have to solve 8 passages, 75 questions from those 8 passages in about 1 hour 15 minutes, because that's the midpoint of your exam. And solving these, then coupling it out with the current affairs. So for example, if this very passage were given to you, as in, of course, in the passage style, they will also ask you, where was the treaty, where's the final treaty signed? That was in Versailles. Or just yesterday, I believe that the Iranian delegation headed out of the negotiations. Then you also need to know as to who was heading that delegation. Whether they ask it or not, that's a separate story. So myth number 1 is critical reasoning, or rather, let us say the solution to the myth is that critical reasoning is different, you conversing in English is different,
and then writing it down.
And part B again is different.
It's different, completely different.
So this is basically something like some elements of the UPSC CSAT, some
Plus
elements of it, that is part A, critical reasoning, reading comprehension, and then is basically part B. Part B mein jo aapko likhna padta hai, subjective. So that's the mains ka element that comes in. So just because you have it, you have a fancy English speaking style, doesn't necessarily translate to whether you'll be able to solve a critical reasoning ka question, because, well, the interview round was scrapped in 23. There used to be an interview round as well in 22, in the first edition of this examination. Right. So that's
that. Fancy English also need not translate into correct grammatical structure when you write English in part B. That is also I've seen. Somebody is speaking good English, they need not write it correctly as well. That is also I've seen. Because part B again is a lot of logical deduction, and then you have to think in a very, very short amount of time and then write your answer in a structured manner. So that is also something that comes with training, repetitive training and practice, and then you get feedback, so on and so forth. This also translates into the next myth is that a few days or say a few weeks, 2-3 weeks of prep is possibly enough for this examination, and that अंग्रेजी है, बाकी सब तो हम कर ही लेंगे. Manage how tough can critical reasoning and writing answer 10 marker can be. We've been.
So I also used to hold this view till about 23 to 24, till about that amount of time of the exam was basically. I also used to hold this view कि इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं, अपने आप कर लो, जो है हो जाता है. I now hold a different view, especially post the 25 and 26 ka exam, because well, as you grow older, your views, they evolve with time. You learn more and more things. You get more and more data. You get more and more feedback. Is what I've learned that last के कुछ दिनों में करने से कुछ नहीं, मतलब you won't be able to take a good shot. That is for sure. You need to sit down for at least 5 to 6 months minimum. I'm not saying that if you do start your prep, some do start in January and then they manage to make it through. N number of cases already exist that for example, they started in January. However, this is a very student dependent approach.
Exactly.
You never really know how many attempts have they given?
Exactly.
Where are they coming from?
Do they have a sibling who's in already, so they can probably give give them the guidance? For example, if sibling 1 took coaching, or sibling 1 had guidance, and he's in, now sibling 2 is also giving that examination. And sibling 2 somehow gets selected, and then they come for an interview and say, oh, you know, we just prepped for a few days or a few weeks. But you don't know the parde ka piche, essentially what's going on. Maybe they're the kind of students who probably could attempt the examination, and or they are a second attemptee, or they had that guidance.
Yeah. Have a sip of water before we take this forward. So basically, this is how it basically goes. So you never really know as to kiska kya background tha that enabled them to clear it in such a short period of time. And usually people for swag and style over the interviews as well. At least our students are quite honest about it, but even then some do not wish to disclose it outside that we took coaching, right, or we took help, or we were just too good. So many people for their swag, perhaps they don't even disclose facts sometimes, not even to us. We get to find out later, acha ye hamare batch wala tha, iska hua tha clear, and then somebody else basically came in and told us. So that's basically a lot of unsaid realities basically that are going there, and you never really know, like for example, what is being written on Reddit, who's writing it, 10 and on accounts, God only knows what happens there. I was shown a few screenshots of certain things, so you never really cannot trust basically ki kaun kahan se kya aa raha hai, kya nahi aa raha hai. And it's a murky world out there. So you will have to decipher first who you are, your own level, and then only basically see what sort of time do you wish to give it. In my own experience, around 6 odd months.
Yes, you need that much. Yeah.
Right, so that is the second.
So the third one. Third one is that there is a decipherable pattern to the examination. We love talking about this. Is there a pattern to the examination?
The new reality of any competitive exam in India, especially at the postgraduate level, is that there is just no pattern. This is the new pattern now.
Yes.
That there is just no pattern. If you look at the UPSC CSE prelims, like for example, this time bhi halla gulla hua tha, there was a lot of noise. There was n number of videos with a lot of, I would say, vociferous opinion making as to the UPSC should do this and UPSC should do that. But forget the UPSC for a while. The prelims basically indicate to you that there is no pattern, and every other exam. So in the NLSAT of 25, there was a dedicated passage on how coaching academies are able to game the system, and by pattern prediction.
How essentially examiners are they make papers as such that the coaching institutes are able to decipher a pattern, and that the papers become predictable. So now the game is there is no prediction.
This particular examiner, specifically the NLS examiner, why? Because these papers are being made in-house.
Exactly.
There is no collegium, there is no national level other NLUs to report to. There is no one to answer to, very frankly. They are making it with a very strong application of mind, and with one of the aims is, of course there will be a lot many, but one of the aims is that the coaching people should not be able to decipher the pattern. Whether it's via current affairs, whether it's via anything. I'll give you another example. 22 ka paper, which I attempted in real time at NLU Delhi. It had principal facts questions.
Yes, it did.
They have not been repeated till date, by the way.
It's a very, very heavy examination.
This train could come in and hit you at any time. Because there's just no pattern. This year there was a question on syllogism.
Yes.
Question
it was
number 30.
Struck out, but there was. You can see that happening now.
So that syllogism question was there. This was the first time after 22 that they went into vocab. Synonyms and antonyms made a return this year.
Yes.
And then this was the only edition of the exam that I've seen.
Very heavy current affairs.
Very heavy current affairs and very teda current affairs.
Yeah, pop culture and all of that.
But we could, I believe in my assessment, out of the 25, 29, whatever the current number of current affairs, let's just hypothetically it can be greater, but as in real life it can be greater, but hypothetically let's assume it at 25, we were able to get around 18 odd. Very decently, you could see them from a distance given the examination that this is. So, acha, now, ab jaise humne kaha pop culture, so that's a pattern. Now these people know कि ये यहाँ जाते हैं. अब now everyone is going to basically turn their heads towards pop culture है. अगली बार सरकारी स्कीमों पे पीछे पड़ जाएं तो आप क्या कहेंगे?
Exactly.
ठीक है जी. तो आप पैटर्न का तो आप हिसाब छोड़ देना. पैटर्न एक ही है. You get 75 questions. How many on assumptions? How many on conclusions? How many weakening? How many strengthening? How many vocab? Nobody can.
That is why we at least we feel the prep has to be very extensive. That is how we've designed our program essentially. That it's not just NLSAT, but you extensively prep for all other examinations because you don't know how wide the net will be cast when the examiner is making their exam paper.
Last year it was asked which schedule of the constitution mentions those languages.
There you go.
Then last year it was also India that is Bharat or Bharat that is India. Or I think there was now, for example, even if they ask you preamble, that's 11th, 12th ki, general awareness. So being generally aware. Now that doesn't mean that you go and sit through Lakshmikant for polity, but that certainly means that you know when was the constitution adopted, enacted, commencement, etc., which is expected out from anyone who's basically sitting for a competitive exam. So forget running behind the pattern. Pattern is only one. 75 questions, 5 cases, 1 essay. And it's a wide open field. It includes synonym, antonyms, copious, conspicuous, colloquial, stuff such as that, words such as that. Then you get into syllogisms. Then you get into critical reasoning. You can't even predict because I remember 22 had very long passages. 23 had very short. I'm talking about part B by the way. 22 had very long part B caselets. Part B in 23 was, and then 24 again it expanded.
This year also part B, NLSAT part B was lengthy. The first question tha part B ka, that was almost like an A4. It was almost spanned like 3/4.
So again that was like that. 22 mein bhi yahi hua tha. There was this question on Sunita boarding a flight on airport.
Very detail heavy this time around. Because this is essentially the first time I've given written paper. Very, very detail heavy part B questions. वो शायद details relevant ना हो आपके arguments में. But you will have to spend time in reading that. Well, because you never know if they're relevant or not. So very detail heavy. You will have to give that time. So all of it essentially ties up ki yes, it's not just like, again, going back to our earlier point, it's not just English. It's thinking within time English and then writing. So that's that.
तो ये हो गया. And then
okay, so next myth is ki you have to be perfect at English. For example, for part B, that you have to have very, very high level English ability or comprehension skills, and only then do you get selected.
So if you have this misconception that you're going to use very heavy words,
wax eloquent, somehow, and
and then basically that will yield you an advantage. I've seen the converse happening actually. People whose English has a flow, it is simple, but the legal logic is perfect and it's structured as well. They usually win instead of people like you want to use very, very heavy, words, and then that doesn't quite help. Of course, if it is used sensibly, it makes some logical sense to use that word there, then it's okay. I've also observed people with that their vocab was quite heavy and was quite dense, and they tried to intentionally show it off in part B, have scored lesser than people who were writing simple, plain, clear English and were expressing their ideas better. Right. So that is basically
I've also additionally always said for part B, this is what I told my students, this at least, ki completion, not perfection. Aim at completing the examination, because if you leave out even one question in part B, or say likewise in part A, that automatically means you're not getting selected. The moment you don't attempt one question, agar aapko usme average bhi mil sakte the, say out of 10 you could have given 6 or 5, And if you lose out 5 because you were busy in writing perfect answers and you were, decorating them with heavy grammar and or vocab, and you've left out one question or essay, essentially people are unable to attempt an essay. That is a solid, chunk of marks that you're leaving out.
Last year, one of my students couldn't make it because he just couldn't attempt the essay.
Exactly.
The moment that you do not attempt the essay, you are in the 35 range in Part B. And this year, general cutoff was 96.25. That was the first year that they published the cutoff as well. And if you do not write the essay, you end up in the 30 to 35 wali range. This year, Part A ranked 5 couldn't get in because she had a 33 in Part B. Again, there was some mess up in the essay only.
She goofed up.
And plus this year's Part B marking, matlab, hamare to, some of our stellar students, I mean, I just do not know what happened there. But it's an opaque system.
In-house opaque system,
You can't even, like in the judiciary exams, we usually file an RTI and get the answer script out to see basically what do they favor and what do they not. You can't do that here. So we really just do not know as to what happens.
So simple English, structured answers, answers written well within time limit, and that's it. That is what essentially gets you through. One of the last myth essentially, and then we have a discussion point, is that students who say only NLSAT, we will only attempt NLSAT, only prep for NLSAT and nothing else. NLSAT hai, varna kuch bhi nahi hai.
So basically, it's you basically going all in, and you say that unless and until, or rather you're betting too much on a competitive exam in India. N number of reservations, the seats are very limited. You are essentially fighting 2,000, 3,000, let's on an average take 4,000 people are fighting, whatever the real number is. They are fighting over 40 odd seats outside of Karnataka. Akshat MHCD rank 1 was at 45, rank 45 by the way, All India, and he was not even on the wait list. So you can't tell me that you will not be sitting, unless you're from Karnataka and you're like, I'm not leaving the state and I have no other option except for this. So it's okay, then it's okay. But otherwise, if let's say you're from Delhi, you're from Bombay, you're from any place else, and you're not preparing for any other law entrance, that's a big disadvantage. You're gambling 1 year away.
Even then, we've had students from Karnataka as well who prepped with us, and they even had, despite having a state domicile, they couldn't get them. So that is completely...
It's an insanely hyper-competitive exam, or rather it has transformed itself into, because the CLAT people who couldn't clear CLAT, and everyone has that dream to go into this university by society, colony wala ko buddha dikhana hai, right? So they are always in the mode of thukra ke mera pyar intakam dekhenge. And there's a myriad of options basically out there, prep routes that are there, myriads of ways in which you can prepare for this exam. So NLU Odisha, MHCET, CUET PG, IP, CNLU, hopefully NALSAR opens up the program in another couple of years. That's been speculated for the last 2 odd years. I just do not know what is happening
IIT Kharagpur is an option if you're from the science background.
There, right? So DSNLU is another option.
Yes.
You make it to NLSAT, you make it through NLSAT, you get a seat at NLS, nothing like it. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of the road. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you a real life story. So Tesla's CFO right now, Tesla's chief financial officer, is a very senior man. He's from a school called Mata Jaikaur Public School in Ashok Vihar in Delhi. And that's not a top-rung school of Delhi. That doesn't have that's not an aspirational place that you go to. It's about the individual as well. It's about the individual as well as to what do you do post your college. The college is not everything. It surely may be something, of course. It of course feels nice to have a tag of IIM, ABC or Lucknow instead of let us say any of the new baby IIMs that exist. But however, having said that, it certainly doesn't mean that you are any lesser. Then you have to go and prove yourself in the field. And like for example, a graduate from NLU Lucknow is heading one of the most prestigious law firms practices out of UK. Now that doesn't mean that that life ended for him, that if he was not from these very places. If you are from that, it is great. You get a 2-year head start in the material race of life, which doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but that's a separate philosophical debate for when you cross 35. Right now, for a 22-year-old, you won't be able to comprehend that, so you'll have to go through life to pretty much understand that. But post a certain amount of PQE, post qualification experience, it is only you that matters. So therefore, might as well attempt all examinations, because बाकी सबकी भी तैयारी pretty much same है. So static GK cuts across all exams, Constitution cuts across all exams. MHCET requires a bit of contract law and BNS, tort law and BNS. Those portions, without explicitly naming them, can be used in Part B to develop your legal thinking. Logical reasoning almost always helps. अब syllogism वहाँ सीखें for CUET PG, and यहाँ पे एक question भी आ गया. So the theory cuts across all exams. So it is prudent that you be preparing for all exams and not solely relying on this one. But if you still want to solely rely on this one, well, go ahead. More power to you. Congratulations to you, and may God bless you with that.
Okay, so last point is more of a point of discussion rather than a myth. We are done with that. This is something that I get asked very often, is कि coaching ही ज़रूरी है, कि self prep भी कर सकते हैं, कि how does that work? Like, can self prep work, या coaching ही required है? So I think this connects back to our point that we were talking about. A few days of prep वाला myth जो हमने point किया था. And I feel the most important thing, because this is something that I've said also, is you have to figure yourself out. There are a lot of points to this. You have to figure yourself out. Are you the kind of student who has that much discipline? Right? That also then ties into the fact that, do you have the material ready? For example, in my experience, current affairs collation जो है, that is one of the most arduous tasks that you can undertake. They're the most labor intensive tasks that you'll have to do if you are somebody who will be preparing by yourself. किया जा सकता है, absolutely. If you're one of those who has that clarity that yes, I am disciplined enough, I have time, and I have time so much so as that I can collect my materials and make sure that I can go through different, like we go through a lot of plethora of websites to sort of extract out that condensed form of current affairs that we give through Hulk. Right? अगर आप वो काम खुद कर सकते हैं, more power to you. You know what your level is, कि आपकी English का level क्या है? Do you have, again, like I said, do you have a sibling who's cleared it? Are you somebody who's giving this examination second or third time, possibly? If you've had that guidance before, then yes. Otherwise, अगर आपके पास time कम है, if you're somebody who needs a structure, then I had some student, I think Anmol ही थी, उन्होंने who joined us, who's cleared NLU Odisha, and she joined us quite late in February, she had said, I think. And I remember she said on the call when she was talking to me before enrolling, she said, I understand, because she's seen life, essentially. She's done a master's and she's now, she said कि I understand कि prep है, करी जा सकती है, and all of this can be done. But what I need is structure. So I need that structured guidance and that expertise of somebody who's been doing this for a while. जिसका काम उसी को साधे type, Somebody who's been doing this, I would rather go to them in a very short span of time, get that condensed experience, and then give my one shot at it. What do you have to say about that?
NLSAT 25 rank 1, Ramsha was one of the most stellar students that we have had at TLOI across all years. And in her interview, she said that she was very clear that she wanted to be under a teacher. She was a teacher herself. She had some teaching experiences under her belt.
Also had teaching experience.
And she was very clear. Now this clarity really helps you save years of your life. If you're clear about this. So there is no examination on the planet that cannot be cleared via self-prep. Provided that you know what you're up to, provided that you do not need any other external help. Usually that is not the case in my own experience. What I've found is that everyone takes as much help as possible, whether they credit it or not, or admit it or not openly. But in my own experience across all examinations, So at Courtroom here at TLOI, we teach right from CLAT UG till the judicial level exam, the judicial services exams. And my experience from dealing with school children to lawyers who study under me is that everyone takes help. So self prep में of course किया जा सकता है, and then basically you'll have to enroll for a good mock series, and that's about it. क्या आप उस चीज को decipher कर सकते हैं? If yes, if you are that kind of student, I mean, why not?
Why not? Why not?
But if you're not, be clear about it and just go all out with taking the help that you possibly wish to take. And
ये भी इसमें आर्ग्यूमेंट है कि if time is on your side, for example, and if you say कि अच्छा एक साल हम we just like to attempt the paper just to get an idea about it and see where we stand essentially, because I have students who've enrolled with us this time who've done that, by the way, and they were like अच्छा we've been humbled by the examination, so now they're like अच्छा, you know, and they're fancy English speaking students, very 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 nice, very very
come from very
good
polished
students, very very
backgrounds,
kind, very well spoken students,
very good educated folks.
So that is something, a route you can also take. But then again, if you're somebody who wants to say कि नहीं एक साल भी नहीं बर्बाद करना है, why to take a chance?
I would say go through the PYQs. You can go to our website, just download the NLSAT question papers from 26 to 22, and then have a shot at it. Part B is only available for the 22 question paper. Rest they do not release the Part B questions, क्योंकि कितने बना लेंगे across the years, तो वो सिर्फ नाम वाम बदल के basically same remodeling चलती है. But they do release some Part B के questions via their official sample problems, and you can go through those and basically take a shot at it and then see. This is akin to asking, should I buy golgappas from the outside or can I make them home at home? You certainly can do that, but if you want to spare yourself 2 days of headache to have like 5 golgappas, you just pay the professional there 20 rupees and just be done with it. That's one way of looking at it. And if you do not wish to do that, well, then you
take a shot at it by yourself. Because even in their webinar that they have every year before the examination, the NLS, they host their professors or their examiners basically. Even in that, because I was listening to those webinars, they say कि okay, what do we want essentially? What kind of student we like? अच्छा कैसे तैयारी करें? हमें कैसा what level should we be? So they just say this, एक बड़ा generic statement. नहीं, we want somebody who's well read. So are you well read? That is the more generic statement that you can make. क्या है well read? You know, are you reading everything under the sun? क्या आप PIB भी पढ़ रहे हैं? क्या आप newspaper भी पढ़ रहे हैं? क्या आप current affair blogs भी पढ़ रहे हैं? So well read का तो under the umbrella कुछ भी हो सकता है, right?
See, for example, I'll tell you. So nobody is stopping them from asking you if they give you an Iran-USA war passage.
हाँ जी.
Nobody's preventing them from asking you even when did the Russia-Ukraine war start. That's the 24th of Feb. That's the trigger 14 plus 10. हमने trigger लगाया हुआ है class में. But that's because that's an ongoing thing.
They might just give you something about one of our Purans and then maybe ask you something strategy के based.
वो तो lefty side university है, पुराण पे तो नहीं जाएं.
हाँ, but
लेकिन cockroach जनता party, cockroach, this statement was given by who? The founder is who? Where is the headquarters of this party registered at? Or under what law are political parties registered? I can like tell you like 15 odd questions.
It's like questions. Opening that onions ka peel kiya.
That's what experience is. That is what pretty much experience is, and tajurba wo kangi.
So you are effectively paying for somebody's expertise when you take coaching.
tajurba वो कंगी है जो जिंदगी आपको गंजा होने के बाद देती है. तो either या आप गंजा खुद हो जाएं हमारी तरह, या आप किसी से जाके वो you just buy the comb out that I just wish to save this, because one of the roles of a coach is basically to tell you. If somebody doesn't tell you कि अच्छा इसको ऐसे सोच सकते हैं, if Mother Nature and luck and fate basically they
favor you.
Yeah, they favor you on the exam day. Maybe it can work out. What if your 4 MCQs, which were complete blind tukkas, work out?
If you happen to just read them somewhere,
right? And then it's okay. But usually, ideally speaking, if you have someone to tell you, that's why mostly all UFC fighters, cricket players, as if they do not know how to fight or they do not know how to play cricket, they still have coaches. Of course, you know, I have a bias against it because, well, I run a I run an academy that basically survives on coaching. But this is my true, authentic opinion that if you can take it, take it. And but
अगर आपके
again,
पास guide है, essentially it's
yeah,
all about guide. अगर guide है, वो guide किसी भी form में आ
with
सकती
a caveat
Your
that I've
luck.
never pushed anyone for coaching. We've always said figure yourself out. This is a question that you will need to tackle yourself. So go through the papers, decide it for yourself. And
Yeah.
that's about it.
I think that's about it.
Let's wrap it up here. And wishing you folks all the very best. If you wish to start your prep, I would say then don't delay it post October. We are shooting this in June. This gets posted in about a week's time. So most likely you'll be watching this in July. I would say start around this basically ये वाला time frame भी अच्छा है. If you want to prepare for all entrances, then start from July. You want to start from NLSAT only perspective, then don't delay it further than October. The ideal time is to start right now in July and August. Because you need to get your foundation basically rolling for party.
The closer you get to the examination, the more
if you are in college, then you have semesters to tackle, you have your internals to tackle, there are attendance issues. Static GK takes about 2 to 3 months, and current affairs is a regular tracking feature. Then this premise, conclusion, assumptions, weakening, strengthening, this is also another 3-month time period. Then part B, answer writing, is another 2 months of prep. So itna time lagta hai bhai.
The volume of work also increases as you get closer to the examination.
Yeah, tests, the reading drill basically starts. The reading drills start. The reading drill to abhi bhi weekly to hum kar hi rahe hain. But then it becomes a daily reading drill. तो वो आप देखिए कि आपको कितनी क्या जरूरत है क्या नहीं है. And prepare for all exams is my very considered opinion on this. I pretty much just don't care whether you agree with it or whether you
unfortunate
disagree.
As it may sound, but there's no guarantee you're getting in. This is the only thing. As somebody, we have been teaching for these examinations for a while now, and as honest as our duty is to be honest with you, I understand it can be very heartbreaking, but there's no guarantee you're getting in. Even if you're from Karnataka, even if you're not from Karnataka, it becomes harder. But there's no guarantee you're getting in. May luck favor you. May
you want to prepare, you prepare for it seriously. Take your most sincere shot and then blame fate.
Exactly.
If it doesn't happen.
Yes.
If it happens, well, throw a party and well, enjoy. That's about it. Give us an interview perhaps, but only if you're from our batch. We don't do it.
Yes.
We don't arrange for it. This year we got a lot many interviews. In fact, a lot many email requests for interviews that students who are not from our batches, and I was quite surprised that this
is going on.
That this practice is going on. So whomsoever you see on our channel was definitely from our batch.
We don't
even do. Even in the previous years, we don't even do interviews with our mock test series students, because that I do not consider that we were the full credit takers. But that is unlike the practice in our professional domain. Alrighty, wishing you folks all the very best. May God bless you. Do take very good care of yourself.